Hello, and welcome to Locate Guernsey's Residency Deep Dive, which is part of our winter virtual event series. My name is Jo Stoddart, and I'm the Director of Locate Guernsey. We are a Guernsey government-funded agency whose role is to promote the island as a destination of choice for individual and business relocation. We provide free guidance, information and assistance to individuals and businesses who are considering relocating here. Guernsey is a Crown dependency of the UK, so although the island is part of the British Isles, we have our own democratically elected government and we make our own laws. The island has many similarities to the UK, but certain aspects of our laws and regulations are different. This series of deep dives considers some of the subtleties of those differences to help those individuals and businesses who may be thinking about whether or not they can relocate to understand how easy it is. Our discussion today takes a closer look at residency in Guernsey and focuses in particular on the way in which employers can bring skilled staff to work within their businesses. We will also be looking at the options available to those who simply want to move to Guernsey to enjoy the benefits of island life. It's worth mentioning at this point that anyone with a British or BNO passport or with right of abode in the UK can come to Guernsey and establish themselves on the island, provided that they live in what we call an open market Part A property. Our Property Deep Dive webinar provides further explanations about the differences between the open and the local markets. Our panellists today also discuss the options available to those with other passports. We hope that this panel discussion will already provide a lot of useful information for viewers, but this is a complex area, so we'd also encourage you to contact Locate Guernsey with additional questions after the webinar. Before we switch to the panel discussion, here's a brief reminder of some of the advantages and delights of Guernsey. I'm joined by Michelle Lano, Immigration Supervisor at Guernsey's Border Agency. Michelle was born and brought up in Guernsey and has worked here for most of her life. Amongst other things, she and the team deal with non-British passport holders who relocate to the island for a variety of reasons. Alongside Michelle, I'm very glad to welcome Gary Salter, who is the administrator of Guernsey's population management team. Gary is originally from the UK and relocated to Guernsey several years ago with his wife and family. Now, Gary, everyone who lives in Guernsey needs to hold some kind of residence certificate or permit according to their specific circumstances. Could you explain a little bit about these permits and certificates to us?
Yes. So as you said, everyone that lives or works in Guernsey requires some type of permit and or certificate. In broad terms, there's residential permits and employment permits. Employment permits are... we have an employment permit policy, which is a list of approved roles. There's over 230 roles, and each of those roles attracts an employment permit, and that's published online. So if a business needs to secure a permit for a member of staff, they can do so on that.
OK, that's great. Now, we all know that anyone who holds a British or a BNO passport or who has right of abode or settled status in the UK can relocate to the island and live on the open market. And this allows them to work if they want to, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, what about those who are looking to bring a business into Guernsey? Are there any circumstances under which someone bringing a business to Guernsey might be granted a permit to live on the local market?
Yes, very much so. The employment permit policy that I mentioned is a list of sectors and occupations where Guernsey has an acknowledged shortage of skills and or labour. So if there's a business that's looking to work within that policy, then they can expect to be given employment permits for that business.
OK, so if you're establishing a business in Guernsey then, it's quite easy to bring some of your key staff with you?
Yes, the list of in-policy roles is essentially your guaranteed employment permits for those roles because there's an acknowledged shortage of skills and or labour for those given roles.
Okay.
So in-policy roles are all available online and they attract different lengths of permit and there's experience and qualifications that are indicative and aligned to those roles. So it's very easy for a business, if they want to be involved in that area, to see what they would get employment permits for. And the application process itself is very, very straightforward. It's streamlined. It's all online. It's digital. So all applications are made online and all the information there to support the application. So all the business really needs to do is look at the employment permit policy, look at what roles are available, and then speak to our team and we'll help them through the assessment process and the application process.
OK, and so the application process, that's relatively straightforward. And what sort of things are you looking for? What sort of things would you expect of a business that wants to establish itself in Guernsey? What would you be looking for when you're looking at whether or not to allocate them employment permits?
For an established business, the roles on the employment permit are easily accessible and we don't really require a great deal of information because the work's already been done around those roles. So the business would just provide a few initial details, a job description, and then they select whichever candidate they'd like to hold that permit. If a business more broadly is looking to relocate to Guernsey and it's a business that's included in that policy, we can support that as well. They would initially do a fairly straightforward employer assessment and we just ask a few more questions around the nature of the business, their plans, and once that assessment's been approved, then the business can just access the employment permit system like any established business.
OK, all right. And so someone coming under a permit like that, how long can they actually stay and work in Guernsey?
With regards to the employment permits, there's a range of different types of permit. In a general sense, there's what we call a short-term, a medium-term and a long-term permit, which is 1 year, 5 years and 8 years respectively. And there are other permits available as well. Once you reach 8 years in Guernsey, you become what we refer to as an established resident, and then you no longer need an employment permit.
OK, so that means you could stay in Guernsey for as long as you'd like to.
Yeah, it's a pathway to permanent residence.
OK, that's fantastic. And so, obviously, if you're granted one of these employment permits, can you bring your spouse or your partner?
Yes, very much so. It's all straightforward, all done through that online population management portal system. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we've got employment-related permits and residential-related permits. So if you're the employment permit holder, you can accommodate any immediate family members in the local market and any extended family members in the open market. And they hold what we call, it's very straightforward, just a family member's resident permit. And you'll need to hold one of those if you're over the age of 16. And once you hold a family member's resident permit, you also enables you to work in any role you want in Guernsey as well, separate to the employment permit.
OK, oh, that's fantastic. Now, if someone's in a relationship and they're not married or in a civil partnership, what sort of evidence do they have to provide in terms of proof of their relationship status?
It's relatively light touch. It doesn't have to be marriage. It can just be a partnership akin to a marriage. So we would just look to establish that as a genuine relationship. Mm-hmm. But we don't ask for a significant amount of information. OK, oh, that's great.
Now, Michelle, I was just thinking about what options are available to, say, high net worth individuals or business owners that want to relocate to Guernsey, but they don't hold a UK passport or right of abode in the UK. What sort of options are there for them to come to Guernsey?
So if someone's just coming to, they just want to come over and not necessarily work, but just want to enjoy island life, then there's the investor visa. So the investor visa, you have to essentially have £1 million at your disposal. £750,000 needs to be invested. And that can be by investing in a share portfolio in the bailiwick. That can be by just investing the money in a local bank account, or alternatively, you can invest in an open market property. So that would be in addition to the property that you're going to live in. So those are the sort of three main ways, and we can discuss those with clients if that would be helpful to them.
Okay, that's fantastic. So now, just going back to employers, if an employer wants to bring someone in, an employee in, who doesn't hold a British passport or right of abode in the UK, how does this work from an immigration point of view?
So we have a work permit policy, which is set by one of the committees of the States of Guernsey. It's essentially skills-based. So now we're actually issuing work permits to European Union nationals as well. Now Brexit has happened. But essentially, if you are in hotel and catering, if you are in finance, then it's fairly easy to get a permit if you are skilled. For finance, will issue to most of the banks and accountancies for those sort of medium to high level skill set people, and they can come on work permits for up to 5 years, and following 5 years on an immigration work permit, then you can actually apply for permanent residency here.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. So just going back to the investor visas that we were talking about, if someone was successful in gaining an investor visa, how long would their visa be for?
So the total length of the visa will come out as 5 years, but initially they're granted a 2-year visa, which allows them to come in, and then at the visa stage you have to just show you have the money ready to invest. So once you've got the visa, within the 2-year period of the initial grant, you have to, of course, invest the money, the 750, and then show you've got the other 250,000 available at your disposal. And then obviously that happens, and then you come to the end of the initial 2-year visa. At that point, they need to engage with us and apply for an extension. So that's done through our team in Guernsey, and then we look to see that the investment has actually been made. So if it's a share portfolio, we look to see those quarterly certificates usually, or if they've invested in the bank, obviously the bank statements. So we go into all of that, and then providing there have been no substantial changes to the situation, then we would grant a further 3 years for them to stay in Guernsey.
Okay, that's fantastic. And what happens after those 5 years then?
So after 5 years, the person can put in an application for permanent residence or indefinite leave to remain, and that would allow them to settle here permanently.
Okay, that's marvellous. And if someone wanted to bring a business to Guernsey, for example, and they weren't a British passport holder, is that the entrepreneur visa that they would need to apply for?
Yes, absolutely. So the entrepreneur visa is for those that want to come in and either set up a new business, completely new business, or they can come and be a partner in an existing business. In both scenarios, you have to intend to invest at least $200,000 into the business. You also, this is quite an important one, you also need to be able to demonstrate that there is a genuine need for those services and that it's going to be of benefit to the bailiwick of Guernsey. So when it comes to that point, we would refer to our colleagues at the Committee for Economic Development to get their opinion on the matter, just to see how they feel whether that business is going to be of benefit to the bailiwick, because they're the experts obviously in that field.
Yes, yes, of course. And so they would then carry on and be able to apply for a further 3 years?
Yes, absolutely. It's the same setup as with the investor visa. The initial grant is for 2 years. And then at the 2-year point, again, we look at it. They make an application to us for the extension. At that point, we ask to see the accounts, the audited accounts, and then, again, we refer to colleagues at Committee for Economic Development. And then if all's in order, then they would get another 3 years on that visa to take them up to the 5-year point.
OK, fine. And so anybody with an investor or an entrepreneur visa, do they have the right to work on the island? Obviously, presumably for an entrepreneur visa, yes. But what about investor visas?
Investor visa can only really oversee their investments. They're not able to take employment outside of overseeing the investments or being involved in those.
Mm-hmm. And what about any spouse or partner that would come with them? Are they allowed to work in Guernsey?
Yes, so that's fine. So in both cases, the spouse or partner can apply for a family visa, and children as well up to the age of 18 years. Again, it's a similar process applying for the visa from overseas, and yeah, they can come over, and actually the partner doesn't have to work within the either the investor's assets or within the business that they're setting up. They can actually work wherever they want. There's no restrictions on that.
Okay, fantastic. So when completing visa applications, is there anything important that people need to bear in mind? How should they sort of go about starting the process?
So I think that's where we come in, and we're always happy to help people because the UK are responsible for our visa application process. There are a series of links that you need to follow through the gov.uk website, and sometimes the questions can be a little bit on the challenging side. So we're always happy to help people through those questions and through the actual process.
Okay, fantastic. That's great, actually. And so, Gary, would you say that you've seen an increase in the number of residents who already have their residency permissions, if you like, to live in Guernsey, who are returning to the island? Has that happened because of the COVID crisis, do you think?
Yes, we've seen an upturn of permanent residents wishing to relocate back to Guernsey from the UK and other countries. I think what's happened is, due to Guernsey's management of the COVID crisis, it's been the safety of the island's been enhanced, and it's also a very nice place to bring up young families. So there's definitely been an increase in residents wanting to return, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's fairly straightforward for them to be able to do that?
Very much so. Once you have permanent residence status, you're essentially free to come back and forth to Guernsey. You don't need to hold an employment permit no longer once you have permanent residence status. And yeah, you're just free to live and work here as you please.
Fantastic. And just one slightly more personal question, because I believe you moved here from the BVI.
Yeah.
So how do you find it as a relocator to Guernsey? How's it been for you and your family?
We found it really positive. We like island life. We like the sort of community element of living on an island, and the way that people work together and stick together. One of the benefits we've found, it has all the benefits of an island, but it's got the additional perk, if you like, of being relatively close to the UK, because we still have family in the UK. So it's easy to get to and from the UK and Guernsey. So it feels like you're close to home or close to family, but you still have the sort of nice elements of living on an island. Possibly not quite as sunny as the BVI, but
no,
it's still very pleasant in summer, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both, Michelle and Gary, very much for sharing these insights with us and for helping to demystify the process for our audience. So the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, really is that Guernsey's open for business, and we have mechanisms in order to enable people of all nationalities to establish a business here, irrespective of their nationality, as well as to bring skilled staff to the island to work here. Further information is available on the Locate Guernsey website, and of course we have links through to the Border Agency and to Population Management as well. So please join us for other webinars in this winter event series, where we'll find out more about property in Guernsey, about healthcare in Guernsey, and how to establish a business.